That's a great question. And I'm at a bit of a I'm just I just appreciate that question a lot because where I am now in my business and in my life now feels very different from that guy that you mentioned. Being an entrepreneur, like there's many entrepreneurship podcasts people can listen to, and what they'll learn is that it's a grind. And Elon Musk calls it eating glass, chewing glass. Well, who would want to do that, right? And that's what it's like having your own business, because you're figuring out what you don't know as you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like driving a train going 1,000 kilometers an hour and not knowing where you're going. You're figuring it out. You're penetrating a market. You're having to literally figure it out. And I've got different failed businesses. I've been in business for 10 years, and I made the pivot from the career world to the business world 10 years ago. And I've had different businesses, and you're literally failing forward constantly. So to answer your question, what happened, what made me that determined, prepared, consistent go-getter?
All right. Thanks for joining us, Michael, at the Life of a Career podcast. Before we get started, could you give us a quick 90 seconds of who you are and what you do?
Sure. No problem, Eric. My name is Michael Santonato. I'm currently a financial advisor and financial educator. I have my own business helping people get more out of their money, understand the tax system, pay less tax legally, of course. And I'm an avid public speaker and author, talking about and writing about investments, protecting your family, protecting your assets, your investments, your net worth, and growing it and accelerating it.
Awesome. Was that so? Before we get into more of the details of what it means to be a financial advisor and then all the above for speaking engagements and things like that, from the beginning, was this what you always dreamed of when you were a kid?
Never. I'm pretty sure when I was asked what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said I was going to be a police officer. And I did actually go to Seneca, which is in Toronto, where I'm from, Canada. I did actually go to Police Foundations, which is like a 2-year collegiate program. And I did
Really?
graduate from that, but I did not end up down that path.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of actually did follow what you wanted to do as a kid.
Just for a bit, yeah. I mean, I loved law. I loved, and I still do love helping people. I believe in doing what's right, honesty, integrity, right? Service, things like that. So that all kind of falls within policing, but I'm glad I didn't end up going down that path. And I came very close because I did apply to the Toronto Police Service, and I got very far to the end, and then it didn't work out. And I'm actually grateful.
So from like after high school, you were really looking to go down this path.
Yeah.
Did you have any other ideas, or you were pretty strict, or focused on that?
At that time, I was very focused on that. Coming out of high school, they tell you have to make a decision for the rest of your life, but that's not really how it is at all, actually. Right? In reality, you change careers. Back then, you change careers every 4 or 5 years. Now, people are changing careers, I'm told, every 2 to 3 years, or changing locations or workplaces. But I did go through, when I got to my later years in high school and then university and college, I thought, security, pension, great pay, great benefits, great values and ethics, all that stuff, doing right, doing what's right, all that. But I wasn't looking forward to the divorce rate or the alcoholism, which is very consistent, very persistent. And those were my drawbacks. And I'm just thankful it didn't work out that way.
Mm. Were there any other ideas that you were exploring? Did you have any other jobs while you were in, high school time frame?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course, yeah. So I'm Italian, and hard work is instilled in you at a young age. So I had a paper route at 12. By the time I was 16, I had 2 paper routes, and I did that for 4 years, from 12 till 16. Saved money, had spending money, had a Pokemon card collection, all that stuff. Gotta catch them all, you know.
Yeah.
and
I was doing the same
and
thing.
right. So I basically, I worked hard and all that stuff, and then when I turned 16, I could get a real job. My first real job was working in a restaurant called Swiss Chalet. They do chicken and ribs, and that's what they specialize in. It was a lot of fun, and I did that for 4 years till I was 20. And then when I was 20, I got into security, and I did security for about 5 years in that, police foundations and college, and trying to get into the police force kind of stage.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you not want to do maybe get into the paper industry or maybe even the restaurant industry? Were those ever even in consideration?
No, no, not at all. No, no. Those are young, you have bigger dreams, you have bigger goals, thankfully.
Yeah.
Restaurant, I look back on the restaurant industry as a ton of fun, like so much fun. And what I miss about it actually is the camaraderie, the teamwork. As a financial advisor, I work one to one a lot with clients, and I have a great brokerage and relationship with my product providers and my mentors. But in a restaurant, I learned like real teamwork. You have to work together, right? You have to get the food out and you have to make it happen. It's got to be fast and it's got to be hot and it's got to be to the customer's order. And there's many moving parts involved. You got the dishes, you got the cooks, you got the prep people, you got the servers, and you got the grill people. It's a lot of fun. Restaurants are tons of fun, high pressure stress environments, but lots of fun and amazing team building, teamwork skills you get. So I did love that. Security, I did 3 different security jobs, and that was with 3 different security companies. One was the first one was a kind of like a, rent-a-guard almost, like I'd be in a hospital one week. I'd be in a warehouse another week. I'd be in a manufacturing facility another week. Just watching a gate, just watching a guard, just guarding a gate or a door,
Hmm.
access pass, that kind of thing. And kind of lonesome, but you're learning the world of security and policing and that sort of thing. And then I got into Sears. My brother-in-law at the time, brand new brother-in-law, earned some really amazing brownie points getting me a job at Sears in the year 2000, I think. And I worked for their security, which is more like loss prevention, where you're enforcing safety and security, and you're also apprehending shoplifters.
Mm.
It's very, very interesting. Very something different every day, something new every day, something different every day. You're dealing with internal theft, external theft, enforcement of policies and procedures, and lots of walking around, on the floor, they called it, right? Looking at cameras, looking for people for stealing, and super fascinating. Very, very good skill building because I learned a ton about human behavior, The tell, you want to know the tell, Eric?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're looking for the signs on who's going to steal and when and why and where. And the tell was always the eyes. So in the moment where someone is going to actually pocket the item or bag the item or leave the store with the item, 100,000% of the time, they always did this shifting eyes, last minute look around thing. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. It was completely guaranteeable. That was the moment. And our keyword across the radios would be like, okay, we got eyes. And then the next 10 seconds would be, okay, we got concealment, which is they pocketed the item. And then the last stage is exit. So they've now exited the facility. When they exit the facility, the theft is official. So it's a very interesting job.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how did you go from restaurant to security?
Yeah, it's a good question. At that time, my brother-in-law got me an in, right? So it's always family or like someone close to your network, right? Like they can get you an in, get you there faster. I wanted to go through the policing route. I was clear that I was going to go into police foundations for college, and I was clear that, law or policing was what I wanted to do. So security made sense. It's kind of a natural stepping stone.
Was that your sort of college job then, part time, or did you work that
Yep.
full time?
Yeah, I did Sears security part-time and then full-time. And I ended up getting promoted through the ranks as a leader, as a supervisor of different security teams. going to bigger and bigger and bigger stores over the 3 years I was with Sears. And I
Hmm.
love the teamwork as well. You work together as a team a lot there because you got numbers to hit and metrics, and you got to do that as a team.
Yeah, no, so that's great. So then you went through the entire. So you had to finish college, and then you were going to join the police force. Is that a requirement in
Hmm.
Canada to have a
It's
degree?
not a requirement. Yeah, that's a good question. Not a requirement, but it is a points system. And I knew that that would, add more points. So I don't know where it is in other parts of the world or states or wherever, but it's a points system. Internally they say it's a points system. They don't say that internally, but so references from, officers counts, right? Volunteer work in the community counts. Having your firearms license counts. Security or related experience helps. Obviously you have to have first aid, right? Maybe a certificate or a diploma or a degree in something like that as well. All those things all add up to points. So I maxed out and I did everything I could. So I had all those things and the referral of a couple of professors, which was awesome. And then I started applying, and I actually flew through the process, probably because I did great prep work and I did great due diligence and made sure I hit all the points. So I had friends that were going through the process. They didn't get a call back for 6 months or 3 months or a year or whatever. I got a call back within like 2 weeks of my application, which was unheard
Wow.
of, you know? And I flew through the process, and every stage it was like, yep, 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 yep. I just went through the whole thing really quickly.
Did you have so I mean it sounds like you had everything planned, like all the points you sort of knew and you were just checking off the boxes. Was there something that in your environment or community growing up that helped you develop that ability to go, that's what I want and these are the steps in order to get there and I'm going to start checking those off? Because oftentimes I think when we talk to people, they're not as planned when it comes to jobs. If they work at a restaurant, it's like, oh, well, it was just something for me to do to have a little extra change when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I took a security job because of this, but not necessarily in line with the future career. Was there something in your upbringing that really sort of honed in that planning process for you?
That's a great question, and I'm at a bit of a like, I'm just so I just appreciate that question a lot because where I am now in my business and in my life now feels very different from that guy that you mentioned. Being an entrepreneur, like there's many entrepreneurship podcasts people can listen to, and what they'll learn is that it's a grind. And Elon Musk calls it eating glass, chewing glass. Well, who would want to do that, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what it's like having your own business because you're figuring out what you don't know as you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like driving a train going 1,000 kilometers an hour and not knowing where you're going. You're figuring it out. You're penetrating a market. You're having to literally figure it out. And I've got different failed businesses. I've been in business for 10 years, and I made the pivot from the career world to the business world 10 years ago. And I've had different businesses, and you're literally failing forward constantly. So to answer your question, what happened? What made me that determined, prepared, consistent go-getter was a culmination of things. It's always a culmination of things. It was probably my father's very heavy Italian influence of working hard. My mother worked very hard too. My mother was the first licensed realtor in Toronto back in like the 60s and 70s. She was also one of the first female branch managers at a bank in the 90s. My mother worked very hard too. My parents were just hardworking. Hard work was just instilled in us. And commitment, follow through, dedication. It was all very clear. It was all very instilled in us from a young age. Also, my world was relatively small, being in business and networking. And it's a different age now. 10 years ago, the social networking, social media, like didn't exist back then. Facebook didn't exist, or it was just starting. And we didn't have all these notifications and bing, 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 everything all the time. So I think it was easier to be focused then. Now it's like distractions everywhere. Also, something happened in my childhood when I was, 8 years old, one of those pivotal life defining moments where this teacher ridiculed me in front of the classroom and she accused me of doing some assignment wrong. I'm an 8-year-old kid. It was like drawing dinosaurs. Literally, that was the assignment. It's like draw your favorite dinosaur and make it special, make it yours. So I got this Triceratops and I'm coloring it in, and I'm coloring it in orange. And I know that Triceratops are not orange. I've seen the drawings. I've seen the pictures. But she said, make it special, make it yours. So she comes around and she's like, oh, Mark, that's a nice T-Rex. Oh, Jennifer, that's a scary raptor. Way to go. Comes over to mine and she's like, whoa, Michael, what is this? No, 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 no. This is all wrong. And she grabs my dinosaur, holds it up in front of the class and says, look, everybody, Michael did the assignment wrong. And she laughs, this cackling witch heckling of a laugh. And the whole class laughs. And obviously, I'm 8 years old. I feel horrible. I feel terrible in this moment. And I realize that, I was right and she was wrong. In my mind, in the process, I was right. She was wrong. I didn't do anything bad. She's an adult. She's the teacher. She shouldn't be ridiculing me, in front of the class. I was wise enough to know that at that age. And in that moment, I decided nobody will ever make me feel this way ever again. And I will do whatever it takes to be right all the time, because being wrong felt so horrible, right? It was so embarrassing and humiliating. So that crafted a personality at that time in me of being, incredibly stubborn, very closed-minded. If you would have told me I was an open-minded person back then, I would have said, yes, I am. But I would have stuck to my tunnel vision of what I knew. And I was on this mission to prove that I'm right. So policing, I think, had a lot to do with that, because here I am in this position of power, this authority figure where I get to be right all the time. There's this great movie, Judge Dredd from the 90s with Sylvester Stallone. Rob Schneider goes in one scene, Mr. I am the law, where he's ridiculing Sylvester Stallone. It's so much fun. And it's like, that's who I thought I could be, right? So that's where I was going. Those were my commitments. Those were my values. And that was my mission, basically. So it made sense to me to go into policing or law or something like that at that time, because that was my modus operandi. That was my method of my way of being, everything. And then I got into personal development when I was 25, and all of that started unraveling and changing. And it was like, whoa, I don't know everything. I'm not always right. I can be a jerk. There are cons to this way of being, plenty of negatives to this way of being,
So could you talk a little bit through that transition from going after being a police officer and then switching over? How did you eventually get to finance? Like you said something about personal development. Was that a career path then, or was that just an educational process?
It's just an educational process, but it was also a transformational process. Yeah, it's a great question, man. It was not a career. I initially went through this self-development for my career because somebody introduced me to this course and they're like, oh, this could probably help you get what you want and help you get further. Because I was also at a bit of a roadblock. I was working then for Lowe's, and Lowe's came to Canada, and I was with Lowe's for 5.5 years. And Lowe's had plucked me from Sears, and then Lowe's basically was like they wanted the best of the best, so they plucked me from Sears, and then I got kind of at the ceiling because they had limited growth when they were coming into Canada, right? They couldn't grow too fast. They had to start with 3 stores, then 4 more stores, then 4 more stores. They couldn't just blow off the top, otherwise it might not have worked. So it's very smart. So I started doing this self-development work for my career because that was my number one focus, was my career. And what I did is I basically unexpectedly transformed myself inside and out, and just unraveled the inside of my whole way of being, and all my unconscious beliefs and notions and desires just changed and flipped almost overnight from these really, really powerful personal development courses. And then my world opened up. Then it was like, oh my God, my world is so small. I'm so closed. I'm not as open as I think I am. I'm actually very rigid. I'm very stubborn. there's a whole world out there. I need to explore it. I need to like be more, do more, have more, because I knew that I could from this unraveling, right? And that's when I started to get into business for myself. And since then, I've had, 4 or 5 different businesses. Some worked, some didn't. This is basically like my third business in finance that is working right now. That's going very well, and it's a very concrete, serious need that people have that I'm very much dialed into, because there is no financial education out there. There's nothing in schools. There's nothing in the family. There's nothing in religion. There's nothing in the community, and I don't think there's ever going to be. And what they might put in there is tiny, 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 tiny compared to what's really necessary and what's really possible.
How did you get into finance then? From wanting to be a police officer to even personal development, what's the connecting factor of getting you interested in finance, or was money sort of just on top of mind and you gravitated toward finance?
No, so there's a couple of steps. So when I got into the self-development work, I got out of wanting to do policing and security, and I wanted to contribute more to humanity. I wanted to contribute more to the world. I wanted to control my destiny. I wanted to control my time, my income, my destiny, all these things. And I saw that business and entrepreneurship was the path to that. So I started with like, okay, well, what do I know? What can I give? What can I share? And relationships always came easily to me, romantic relationships. I'd always had great partners and great, sorry,
It's all right.
hopefully you can mute or edit that part.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
So relationships came very easy to me. Dating was very easy, and meeting people and having great relationships and good communication was easy. So I thought, look around and I see there's basically 3 things people struggle with: money, love, and health. Those are kind of the main 3, they say, in the self-development world. So I was like, well, I know love pretty well. Let me see what I can do. So I put together this program and this course and started surveying people, and lots of single people out there who don't want to be single. So I basically, for 5.5 years, had a business as a matchmaker and as a dating coach. And it was very good. It was very good. It was very successful. I learned a lot. I was very, very happy about it. And I met the love of my life that way. My, who I thought would be my long-term soulmate. And, long story short, she came in for matchmaking, and it was like, okay, tell me your list of everything you're looking for and everything you have to offer. And it was a perfect match for me. So I basically stole her for myself, and we were engaged. And along with her came 3 kids. She was married before. Her ex-husband died before. And I knew that being with her meant that I would basically adopt these 3 kids. So after doing the relationships business for 5.5 years, I saw that, it was very, very hands-on. And I wanted to get into a business where I could work once and get paid multiple times, as opposed to the previous business I was in, which was work once, get paid once. Mm-hmm. So finance, I had learned through friends and networking that with finance, investments, insurance products, things like that, you can work once and get paid multiple times. Mm-hmm. And that was really appealing to me because I wanted to be with those kids more. And I wanted to set them up for life and set ourselves up for life. So my parents being bank managers, as I mentioned earlier, both my parents were in the bank. They met in the bank, fell in love, got married in the bank, and spent 30 years there. They would come home and tell us about all the basics of finance. They would tell us about all the essentials of finance. My father and I would go through the newspaper, and you needed a ruler back then because the internet and stock charts and, all that stuff on the internet wasn't available. So you needed this huge, long ruler where you could go all the way across the newspaper and see the open, the close, the percent change, the dollar change, the ticker symbol, all these things. Massive charts with the rulers. So I got a great financial education when I was young. And in transitioning into finance, it was clear that most people don't have that. They'll never get a financial education. It's not taught in schools. Most people don't understand money or finance or insurance or investments. So I thought that's a major area of opportunity. So I've been doing that for the last 5 years. In COVID, unfortunately, we got a divorce, my ex and I.
Mhm.
We're still in contact. I still talk with the kids. I still care about them very much. And I love doing finance. I love educating people on money and finance because I know that a few hours with me will change the rest of their lives, their whole trajectory.
Yeah, I guess since we've arrived at the career, could you kind of go in a little bit more in detail of like what a day to day is as a financial advisor? What services you provide? What do you usually advise people? How do you
Sure.
advise
Yeah.
people?
Yeah. I do the usual thing that a lot of people do, emails and check the markets and check the news and things like that. But essentially, I'm constantly talking to people about their own unique situation. I'm analyzing their current situation, where they are to where they want to be. There's like three reasons why people fail financially. One is no education, which we've already established. Two is no game plan from where they are to where they want to be and a roadmap to get there, right? You don't get in your car unless you know where you're going or you have a GPS directing you. So the step two, and the second reason is having a plan. So I'm constantly looking at people's plan and their goals and where they are and where they want to be. And then the third reason why people fail is no mentor, no advisor or coach or guide to guide them through the ups and downs of life. So I'm in my day to day, I'm reviewing the markets, but I'm having conversations with people over the phone, over email, doing video meetings, video conferences about their situation. And I'm helping them with their plans and their life as it's adjusting and unfolding. You just got an inheritance. Okay, here's your options. Here's what you can do with it. What are your goals? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do with it? You just got a raise or a promotion. Okay, what do you want to do with it? You have an investment that went bad. You had a death in the family. You lost your job. Okay, what do we need to do? Let's look at what's possible. So I'm constantly that sounding board and that guide and advisor to guide them through those changes and those times.
And then do with the advice, like do you have to constantly check the markets, or how do you gain that knowledge yourself? Because as markets continue to change, are
Mm-hmm.
you doing some sort of work on that end as well to go, um, you know, this
Yeah,
is what the modern planning,
yeah,
system is, or
yeah,
something like that?
yeah. I've got to be open on top of new ideas, new breakthroughs, new technologies. Um, I'm constantly learning and reading books and watching documentaries all the time, sharing those updates and feedback and thoughts with clients, and doing webinars, free consulting, free webinars or complimentary webinars. Or, I personally believe we're in a recession and they haven't announced it yet. So I'm working on a webinar right now to educate people on how to prepare and how to thrive for this upcoming recession, which I think has already started. You're just going to announce it next year, probably after the holidays. So yes, I'm constantly learning, constantly educating myself and sharing what I learn. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got online courses. I make videos for the YouTube channel all the time. I've got a private Facebook group. Um, it's almost like I need to clone myself to just constantly get the information out there. But thankfully, with today's tools, it's easier.
Hmm. So, is there any cold calling? You said you were really good at building relationships. Is there much cold calling, or is it usually a lot of referrals?
It's mostly all referrals. I don't do any cold calling at all. I am actually mostly referral based and social media. I do post a lot on Facebook and YouTube. Like I said, those are my main two. So I do get referrals from Google and from Facebook and YouTube. I don't do any cold calling. I am working on a program right now actually to help business owners get tax credits that they're due, that they're not claiming. So I am actually doing a little bit of cold calling for that right now because there's like $340 billion in unclaimed tax credits for business owners, which is just an astronomical number. And they only have 1 year left to claim it. So I'm committed that these business owners get these tax credits because they pay their taxes.
Hmm.
This is their money that the government set up to give back to them.
Yeah. Do you operate only in Canada, or are you operating in other countries as well? How does that work?
So the tax program I'm talking about is only in the United States.
Okay.
I advise clients in Canada and the United States. I'm currently traveling Mexico right now. I've been living online, living abroad in Colombia and Mexico for the last 2 years. doing a lot of my work online, all my work online basically. And yeah, I'm able to work with clients in Canada and the United States, and my online courses are available for purchase anywhere.
Mm. Um, Before we get into the kind of the credentialing side, because I'm sure that there's a whole process to get credentialed in both Canada and also the United States. Um, the what is like a day to day? Like, let's say we look at your week, right? Do you usually block off an entire day where you're just talking to clients and working with them about their plans, and then you structure maybe the mornings where you're looking at the markets and
Mm-hmm.
studying? How does that structure generally look, especially since you build your own business, so you have some
Yeah.
say in that?
Yeah, mornings are very key. The start of anything is key, like preparation. So my mornings are very key. My mornings are very like filled with quiet time because I do a lot of communicating throughout the day. So I need my morning time to be selfish and to replenish my energy and charge my battery for the day. So for me, that looks like meditating, goal setting, gratitude, prayer, eating healthy and eating well, obviously, and taking time for that. And then I'm also doing some market reviews and market research and um, looking at where things are going, where things are headed in the mornings as well. And then slowly getting into email and that sort of thing. The rest of the day is usually calls, conversations, shooting videos, emails. I do work evenings sometimes because I work with families. So they work during the day. So I talk to them in the evening. So I might have a consistent break or a solid break in the afternoon. I'll see clients from like Tuesday to Friday, midday. I usually take a half day off Fridays because I work a half day on Saturday. So sometimes Saturdays, half day, midday. Just running your own business, there's always a to-do list. There's always things to do. So, and then Sundays is the one day that I mandate as like no work at all.
Okay. And then what has being a financial advisor and starting your own business enabled you to do? We can kind of see it in the background where you get to live in different countries. Is there any other things that it sort of allows you to do in life?
There's a lot. Yeah, it's allowed me to build a team actually. So a lot of my team members service the US based clients because it is a regulated industry. So I'm not licensed in the US. So my team members that are licensed in the US, they will service those clients. So it gives me some freedom and leeway there, which is nice. It gives me a great satisfaction, a great sense of satisfaction. It's almost a thankless job. Like I'm sure lawyers and accountants are thanked very low on the totem pole. Financial advisors are kind of like that. When everything's going well and everybody's making money and the markets are doing great, everybody's happy and everybody's positive. Right now, rates going down, rates getting crushed, inflation is record high. We're in a recession. Nobody's happy, So it's kind of a thankless job sometimes, actually. And I do find that unfortunately, but that's okay. It's kind of par for the course, I guess. Um, but it's extremely rewarding and gratifying when you set up something like, a kid's future. I work with mostly families, mostly parents and young families, and I help them set up investment programs and investment, you know, structures where the kids are going to be taken care of. The kids are going to totally be taken care of, have nothing to worry about by the time they're, 20 years old. And it's really refreshing. It's really rewarding. It's really satisfying, really gratifying, and even simple things like educating people and leaving people with a wow. And, I'm constantly doing webinars. I did a webinar this week and people close to retirement, and they were very thankful, very appreciative because I gave them options they didn't know that they had, you know.
Mhm.
So that's really gratifying. Sharing the education and sharing the information goes a long way. It makes me feel really good. There's financial benefits too. Like I said, passive income, get paid multiple times from working once. So as long as I maintain that relationship and that investment or that insurance plan, then the clients will keep it and they'll, continue to pay, which will continue to give me a little bit of money. So that's nice. Nice peace of mind there. I'm part of a growing business as well. I'm a shareholder. It's a small company growing rapidly, family owned, and I'm a shareholder. So when we continue to succeed and continue to grow, we could go public or get bought out, which for me could be a multi-million-dollar transaction, which would be amazing. And then it also has a lot of inside knowledge. Like there's my mentor used to say when I first started, there's money in money. So it's true. Like there's a lot of money to be made in money if you're in that world. So it can be very lucrative. It can be very financially rewarding as well.
Yeah, no, I really like that you brought up the whole fulfillment part, because when I first think of financial advisor, I don't think, oh yeah, lots of job fulfillment because I get to help people. That's not the
Uh-huh.
first thing that you think when financial
Yeah,
advisor comes around, but that makes a lot
of
of sense. You
course.
do really help people get to that next level, help the education planning and succession planning and things like that.
Hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. That Thank you for bringing that up, because most people I think would just look, oh yeah, it's a lucrative. I probably have to deal with numbers, and that's about it. So
No, you have to. Yeah, it's a great point. You have to love people too because you're constantly working with people. You know, like it can be very frustrating as well. By the way, like you know, there's good days and bad days, and the worst day I've ever had was there was a guy who worked construction who was getting paid cash in construction, and he had a kid with a hold on, I want to plug in my charger. Yeah, so as I was saying, very unfortunate situation happened, worst day ever, where basically this guy who I set up a life insurance plan, who had a kid with autism and his wife was on disability, and he had no benefits with the construction job because it's all just cash, right? He was just getting all cash. So he came to me to want to set up benefits and a life insurance plan. Now he's a smoker. So when you're a smoker, your life insurance, you pay more because your likelihood of dying is much higher, right?
mhm.
So I'm like, good on you. Let's work within your budget. You have nothing in place. You have responsibilities. You have kids. You have a family. You need some coverage. You're the main breadwinner. Definitely smart thing. Good job. Good on you. We filled out the application. We got it started and his application was in process. Now in Canada, when you put down your banking information to start the program, even if you're not approved, because you're doing this gesture and this application in good faith, they give you a little bit of life insurance coverage. So even if you've started it and you haven't finished the process, if you die, your family will get something,
Wow,
10
that's
grand,
great.
20 grand,
Yeah.
right? It's a great, great, great. They don't have to do that. It's a
Mhm.
great thing. They all do that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we did this process. Good on you, man. Good stuff. 2 weeks into the process, it's almost done. He says, hey, I want to cancel the thing. I'm like, whoa, just wait, hold on. Wait until the thing is why do you want to cancel it? My boss at work said he's going to give me benefits. Okay. I'm really glad to hear that. And the right thing to do is to wait, let this process finish because you haven't paid anything. You haven't lost anything
Mhm.
and keep this temporary coverage, right? And wait until your boss gets the thing done. No, no, no. I want to do it. I want to do it. I'm going to cancel it. My boss is going to do it. Trust me, good faith. Okay, fine. But honestly, like you have nothing to lose. You have no risk. Let's just wait until he gets it started and then we'll cancel it.
Mhm.
And you're not even approved yet. Let me just tell you if you've been approved. Anyway, he canceled it and I never heard from him ever again. I followed up many times, but I never heard from him. And like 6 months later, the person who referred me to him was a client of mine. His cousin said he died.
Oh wow.
And I was like, Maria, I was driving at the time. I stopped the car. I pulled over. I was like, Maria, tell me that the boss went through with the benefits and the boss is going to pay the wife from the benefits. Nope. No benefits, no coverage, no insurance, nothing.
Wow.
Oh my God. And she was on disability. So her income was like $800 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That story still bothers me.
Yeah. That's that is really unfortunate. But I guess on the flip side of it is the real benefits and fulfillment that you can actually have of of working with people. Like you're actually there to help people, and and I guess personality wise, then what types of people would you recommend to do this? Are there certain types that would not like the job because you have to deal with the human element of it? Are there careers inside of sort of the financial space, maybe your team, that doesn't have as much of a human element?
Um, my side is constantly dealing with people. So you have to be good with people. You have to have good social skills, good communication skills, or you have to be willing to develop those. You have to be patient as well because it takes time to explain these concepts. It
Hmm.
takes time to let people make their decisions as well. As much as I would just want to sign everybody up for every plan because the math just shows it just works out. You have to still be patient and let people do their thing and go through their thought processes. And you have to be able to explain things in such a way where people will understand.
Hmm.
You have to explain things in a way where people understand it. Because otherwise, if it's going over people's head, they're going to be like, yeah, I'll get back to you or I'll think about it. Thank goodness nobody ever says to me, I'll think about it because if you have to think about it, I'm not doing my job properly. Right.
Mm.
Given you need time to make a decision, yes, and you need to let it settle and you need to let it percolate and you need to talk it over with your business advisors or whatever. But if I'm doing my job properly, which is getting people coverage, getting people educated, getting people in the right investments and products that are right for them, then I should never hear I'll need to think about it. I'll think about it is a cheap way of saying I'm not really interested, but I don't have the heart to tell you.
Hmm. Yeah.
I want yes or no or by when. You know what I mean? I want yes, no, or by when. And I'm okay either way, whatever it is, by the way. I don't mind either way.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting element of the job that I think when people think finance, they don't necessarily think communications, but it's such a large part of the job that even if you like the numbers part, even if you like the macro changes of the financial world, it might not be the job for you if you have no interpersonal skills, right?
Yeah. Accounting is different from being an accountant or a tax consultant or a tax specialist are all different things from financial advisor, you know, different from investment manager. These are all different things. An investment manager just manages the investments. They're mostly just dealing with money in research, in analysis, you know.
And then do you pull information from these investment managers then? Or what's your relationship with these I guess
Mm-hmm.
how do you exist inside the financial landscape?
Yeah. So I'm like on the front end, on the front lines, dealing with customers, dealing with clients. There's a group of people on the back end, actuaries, investment managers, investment consultants, portfolio managers. These are all people that are on the back end, just dealing with the money, looking at the research, the analysis, the trends, the market, the big picture, the macro, the micro, all that stuff. A lot of those people don't deal with the front end clients. I do. I'm totally like front end all the time.
Hmm. Okay. And then, kind of recommendations wise, what if a student is interested in going into this job? What are the requirements to get there? So, some credentialing. Is there an education requirement? How
Yeah.
does that process work?
Yeah, there's licenses. There's licenses and certificates. It's different for every state and province and country. And you need to find out what those are for your individual state or province. I don't recommend young people necessarily get into this field of being a financial advisor. Young people can get great experience working at a bank, working in an accountant's office, in a law firm, things like that. The reason why it's a very difficult career for young people is because people are trusting their money with you. They're trusting their money with you. And when you're young, unfortunately, you're looked at as like young or naive or lacking wisdom or knowledge, not enough experience. So it's not a career really for young people. I wouldn't recommend it for people under like 25 at all.
Hmm.
Not at all.
I
And
really
even
like.
older, like a lot of I'm just being honest, right? Like the other people I know, like a lot of the people in my field, they're like in their 40s or 50s, and there's a lot in their 30s. I'm in my late 30s, but I wouldn't dare start this at like 25. I knew a guy who started it at like 20. He didn't last long.
That's really good advice. Like I was about to interrupt you, but I've never heard in all of the interviews I've done where I was like, "Hey, do you have any advice?" Like, don't do this job until you're older. But I think it's really great advice because you have to build out a network of people, build
Exactly.
credibility. like life
Exactly.
experiences. If you're 21 years old
Exactly.
and you're asking people to, hey, I want to manage your money, even your peers, they don't have
Yeah.
those jobs yet. They're not doctors yet. They're not, lawyers
Hmm.
yet. So even your peers who may potentially take the risk on working with you, they're not even
Hmm.
there in their life yet. So you have to go up the market of age, and then they're just dealing with their peers or above. So I
Yeah.
really like
You.
that.
I'm glad you like that and appreciate it. You nailed it when you said credibility, authority, experience, network. You don't have those things when you're young. You don't have those things when you're 20, until you're like minimum 25. You know.
Mhm. The Could they get the credentialing and things like that? Was it worth it to do it earlier and then maybe not start in the business until later? Or would you recommend just, focus on a whole different career, gain different experiences, and then come into this career path?
Yeah, I definitely think it would be worth it to come back to it later.
Hmm.
Not something to start out on.
Okay. And then for anyone who's sort of mid-career, then would you recommend them walking into this field, is if they were interested?
Yeah, definitely. I would wholeheartedly. I would, because of a number of reasons. Like I said, it's very rewarding, very gratifying, satisfying. It's important work, right? If you want to make a difference, if you want to make an impact, this is it. The worst day for me was finding out that guy who died, who canceled his life insurance plan and left his wife and kid with nothing. That was the worst day ever, right? What I'm told, this happened to me, has not happened to me yet, but I'm told that the most rewarding day, although also unfortunate, will be the day that I show up at a widow or a spouse's house with a $500,000 tax-free check.
Hmm.
You lost your father, you lost your mother. I cannot bring them back, but they left this for you.
Hmm.
It almost chokes me up right now as I think about it. It hasn't happened to me yet, but I've got friends and mentors in the industry that this has happened to, and it's the most oddly rewarding, satisfying day with the greatest undertone of sadness that you could ever imagine. You can't bring back someone from the dead, but people die,
Hmm.
and when the provider or a provider or breadwinner or income earner in a household in today's day and age dies, that family's going to be financially impacted forever, for example. But if they have a life insurance plan and policy in place with 300 grand in coverage, 500 grand, $1 million in coverage in Canada, that's tax free. That's
Wow.
tax free. They'll have the time to grieve. They'll have the time to pay off their debts. They'll have the time to travel the world with their kids if they want. They'll have the time to go through the process. They won't have to worry about coming up with 10 grand or 20 grand for a funeral, or how they're going to make ends meet or pay the bills or whatever. Come on. I mean, how can you put a price on that? You can't.
Hmm.
But for like $80 a month or $50 a month, somebody can do that.
Yeah. Do, yeah, that's such a great story. I don't really want to wish that to happen to you either, because of the conflict
Of
of
course.
that. But um,
But if I'm in
curious,
it long enough, it'll happen one day.
yeah, kind of curious about if there's people who come out of prison, right? This is a whole nother population of people who, sometimes are underserved. And I'm
Hmm.
sort of curious about, is this a profession because of all the licensing requirements? Is this even something that they could consider going down?
That's a good question. They could be their own, coach or advisor. You don't need much to become a coach these days, right? But they could be a coach in terms of like money and finance. They could read tons of books while they're in prison on money and finance and have a fantastic understanding of the financial system and how to master it. They could do those things, but this is a federally regulated industry, and there are background checks and a lot of the licensing requirements and relationships you have with the different product companies. They ask if you have a criminal history, and they don't allow if you do.
Yeah. Could you kind of just go through quickly the distinction between a coach versus an advisor, what responsibilities and authorities each side has?
Sure. Yeah, as a financial advisor, I legally have to have a license, and it's granted by the state or the province you're in. And I have to take continuing education credits in classes and renew that every 2 years. There's fees to renew that every 2 years. I have to have errors and omissions insurance as well, which is a legal requirement as well in case a client has something and, so I don't know, something goes wrong and they want to sue. They're not suing me personally. They're suing the insurance company, which is a legal requirement. And I have to attend regular meetings and stay abreast and all that stuff. I've got to follow tons of compliance, like get lots of client signatures here and there everywhere. And then as a coach, you don't need anything as a coach. There's a lot of coaches that are just waking up one day like, I want to be a coach, and you want to just start something off and you just think like, yeah, I want to coach people on this. And you can do a course or certification, but there's no real legal mandated requirement for that. You're not actually handling people's money at that time as a coach. You're just kind of coaching people.
Got it. So the real distinction is that you can actually manage their money through like an official account, but the coaches can they draft a plan and say, hey, this is what you could do, but as long as they're not touching the money.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And they'll never be able to sell the products. Like they'll never be able to offer or sell the actual products that will get what the client needs. They've got to refer someone else for that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that distinction. And sort of before we go, do you have any, I love that you've already imparted so much advice on or insight into the career in terms of like the human aspect. I'm just surprised by it because I've never thought of it that way, but it makes so much sense. Do you have any other advice to impart about whether it's life or this career path? Feel free to say anything you want in terms of advice.
That's a big one. You've left a big wide open door for me to walk through there. Yeah. There's no magic recipe. There's no protection from the curveballs of life either. There's no protection from pandemics, recessions, we don't know what's going to happen. The future is uncertain. The best thing you can do is prepare. And I really believe having a financial advisor is something that everyone should have if you're committed to success and wealth and greatness. One of the things I say pretty much in every YouTube video that I have on my YouTube channel is it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep that counts. Because in this weird world that we live in, you could make $1 million annually and spend $2 million. That's possible, right? And people do that. That happens all over America all the time. So having someone to guide you through the ups and downs of life, is invaluable. It's priceless. I think I don't charge enough sometimes because I prevent people from so much pain. Some of it they can see, some of it they can't. I prevent people from uncertainty, and that's a big part of my job. But you can never really there is no safe way through life. I mean, the unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates said, right? And Socrates also said, know thyself. Maybe that was Plato. Know thyself is the key. So my 10 years in entrepreneurship and my 20 plus years in the career world working, I'm still getting to know myself and I'm still getting to know my strengths. And the way I look at life is in terms of business and careers, like everyone has a gift to offer. And sometimes we are not doing that. We're doing something else. We're giving something else. But if you can find what your gift is, that is your superpower, your ninja skill, you're like a laser beam. You can cut through so much noise. If you just do that thing, that's what you were designed for. That's what you're made for. The world will benefit and you'll take it all the way to the bank. So I don't know what that is for people, but I highly recommend people find that out.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are on that journey trying to discover that. So thank you so much for that advice too. Where could they find you if they're interested in the finance career or maybe just personal finance? What are some ways that they can maybe contact you or find some of your products and work?
Yeah. I think everyone needs a financial education, and my financial education website is truefinancialeducation.com. So this is where I have lots of different courses on money, investing, finance, everything from Bitcoin and crypto to your own financial history, how the financial system works. And I really think everybody needs that education because, like I said, they're not going to get it in schools. So I have great courses available with lots of testimonials and reviews, and that's available at www.truefinancialeducation.com. If you just want to get in contact with me or learn more about financial advising or potentially being a financial advisor, my company is hiring, and you can find that at my website at michaelsantonato.com.
Great. Yeah, we'll make sure to include that in every single description wherever we post this, from audio to video, and also social media. Well, thank
Thank
you
you,
so
man.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for imparting all that great advice. Again, you're the first person to say don't do it when you're young. Do it later in life and
Yeah.
gain some skills first. So I think
Yeah.
I think the advice that you provided are very, very worthwhile to take in this.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. All right. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you, man.
Hey, thanks for joining us at Mentor Access. If you like what you just watched, please click like and subscribe, and also hit that bell so that you get notified when we have new videos come out. Thank you for supporting our mission.